Hey y'all, Lisa here with our Georgia Suburban Homestead, and today, probably over the next couple of days, because I don't think I can get a whole project done in just one shoot on this video, but I'm going to be showing you needle felting. Now, I'm by no means an expert, and there are many people out there that are much better at this than I am. But I've gotten good enough to be able to include my needle felting projects in my my booth where we go to these weekend pop-up markets. One thing you don't need help from when you're doing this is one of these, because he keeps grabbing that and running with it. So I'm going to have to go lock him away. Oh, eat yourself. I know it looks fun. So, let me go do that, and I'll be back, and we'll talk about your basics of what you need for needle felting. Here I go. I have to say that needle felting is one of the most therapeutic crafts I've done. Now, I tend to crochet in the evenings while I'm watching TV, and that can go pretty quickly because I don't do anything complicated. I do use variegated yarns and things. It keeps me entertained watching the colors come together. But needle felting, you need a little bit of space, time, no little kids around, no kitty cats, because until you learn what you're, even after you learn what you're doing, you're still going to stab yourself and bleed. But you learn pretty quickly how to keep your fingers out of the way. So what do we need for the needle felting? And here's where I'm going to insert a photo of the finished product of what I'm starting today. These are the basics though. You start with what's called fleece. And that's just a combed wool. It comes in bundles like this. You see that? And you simply tear pieces off in 4-inch pieces like that. You just rip it out, okay? So you've got your starting fleece. You may need, but not always, a little bit of floss and a darning needle or quilting needle. You'll need the colors. See, this is fleece as well. This is from a brown sheep. And then you get colors that are dyed. So for this project I'll be using for the core, this is core fleece, brown, a little bit of black, a little bit of lighter brown, a little bit of kind of auburn reddish orange brown, and this comes in all the colors of the rainbow. So you can go crazy like I did. I've got suitcases in my office. As you see when I go live, you see behind me all those stacks of things. They all include all parts. Here comes another cat. This is a flesh tone. So you've got fleece, you've got now you've got a little bit of thread, and these are needle felting needles. I buy them in bulk. The store that I like best online is out of Texas. It's called Living Felt. I'll put the link to their site below. They also have a really nice YouTube channel that goes live on Wednesday afternoons, and it does tutorials on different projects that you can do with the needle felting. Okay, but there's all sorts of kinds of needles with different shapes to the needle itself, different sizes. but I tend to use one fine needle for fine work and a more coarse needle for the bulking. This is, I don't know if you can see the difference of that. Can you see the difference in the ends? One's thicker than the other, but they also have different barbs that will put the felt together, and this is all sorts of sizes and shapes. You can get tools like this that have multiple ends, which makes the bulk of the, before you get to the fine work, makes it go a little bit faster. You need a felting pad. Now I have bought the specialized felting pads from the wool shops or the felting shops that you can get, and but I do so much of it that I really go through them so quickly, and they can be expensive. Then I went to Joann's Fabric and got some cushion stuff, and I find that it works pretty well, and when it starts to degrade, I'll put fabric over the front of it, like a cotton fabric that won't grab the needles. But I'm a cheapskate, so that's what I also have in my. I have a tool kit with different implements for cutting wire that you use for the skeletal structures. Not all your needle felting objects are going to have a skeletal structure, but you need something that can actually cut through the wire. I've got my darning needles in here. And that's basically a jewelry making kit you can get off Amazon, and you'll get a number of different types of pliers, and it comes to you in a nice little box that makes it convenient to keep everything in one place and away from the creatures. And I've got several decorative boxes. This is only for needles, and I've got some spooled wire, and there are different gauges of wire that you can learn about. Hole punches, that's more advanced than what we're going to do with this initial video. If you like the video, let's get this out of the way now. Go ahead and subscribe, hit that black bell, and if you like this video, say at the bottom whether you want to see other projects that I've put together, and we can felt together. I always have something to drink. Sometimes it's herbal tea from the herbs that I grow in my garden. But when the weather turns cool and the days are short like they're getting right now, we've already gone on daylight savings. This is a nice activity, especially after a frustrating day. And you know, I deal with the public at a big box store, and sometimes I just have to come home and stab something to relax. Or if you've got kids that have made you crazy during the day or whatever, the husband's frustrating you, this is a good activity to do that's non-harmful to anyone, and you actually end up with something that's kind of cute or useful. So I'm going to focus down on my hands and show you what we're going to be doing. This is, and it's something that's really popular with the people who visit my booth at these festivals, is sleeping animals. Okay, there's something about a sleeping creature that is endearing. So today I am making sleeping deer, and because Christmas is coming, I'm going to put little red noses on a couple of them for to honor Rudolph. You remember Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer? But so this is what we're going to do. The pattern I use, I actually had to buy, and it's a pattern, and those are shapes, and you'll have to get your pattern at the Wishing Shed, I think is the name of it. I'll put that link down below to give her some love. She's on Etsy, and that's where I learned my basic school for the sleeping creatures, and I took that on my own and ran with it, and I've made my own patterns as well that I don't sell. They're just for me, but it's just to get you started, the Wishing Shed, and she's out of the UK. So what are we going to use right now? We're going to use pipe cleaners. Now, the standard pipe cleaner, I could fold this in half and get 2 skeletons out of this. But you can get them in white or black or different colors. And a package of them goes a long way. And using the pattern, for the initial pattern, that's a folding pattern. We've got this. And then through stabbing it, we end up with this. So let's get started on one, and I'll show you the first few steps on how to do this. Ready? So as you see, I have cut the pipe cleaner, and I'm actually on the second part of the pattern. You can see, and using the pattern, I have bent it to match the shape of the pattern, here. So now we need to start building the body. And I have found that using about 4 inches, or the width of my hand, piece of the roving core wool, I pull that in half, and I pull that in half again. So each piece gives me 4 chunks of what's called roving core wool, okay? And then I'm going to do what's called drafting, and which that means gently tugging the core wool out without breaking what's called the staple. In other words, without pulling it into further pieces. So, see how much longer that is? And then I'm going to take my little skeleton and start wrapping the body. Now this takes some practice. And I'm just going to wrap it and try to hold it as tight as I can. Around the long part of this little fella's body. Then I'm going to take the thicker needle, hold the guy down, and stab him. Now what this is doing is it's locking the fibers of the wool together, which is a process known as felting. And this will hold that first layer down so it doesn't unravel. You see how that's stuck to him now? It's not coming undone. Then I'm going to go up what is going to become the neck. Now deer have rather slender necks, so I'm not going to wrap a whole lot on the neck, but you'll see that come together. Now I'm going to felt this part. You gotta be real careful and keep your fingers out of the way, because this will make you bleed and when you miss what you're aiming at and actually get your flesh. But you want to felt until things are somewhat firm, but not totally firm, because you're going to be building off of this. Doesn't look like much yet, does it? Pick up the second of the 4. Draft it out. And you'll get used to how this feels to know when you're at the limit of what it's going to do for you before it begins to tear. You can tell this came almost directly from the animal because it's got little bits of straw and bedding that the animal laid in still in the fiber. You do need, if you've got cats or dogs, to keep your needle felting stuff up high because it does smell like the animal and they will be attracted to it to grab it and run with it. So this time I'm going to start at what will become the animal's neck and withers, and I'm going to work toward the back. I'm going to hold it as firm as I can. We're going to go past the nubby on the end, wrap that a few times, and then come back to the body, and then tack it down with your coarse needle. Now here's where I go straight in at the rear to tack down that what will become its tail. And I kind of go straight into the animal and make it kind of lean off the side of the felting pad. Again, keeping my fingers as far away from where the needle's sticking in as I can, because it does hurt. But do you see how that tacked down? And you can see what needs to be done, the fluffier part, and that's getting firmer. And around the neck. And that's probably going to be the last of the wool that I put on the neck. I might do a little bit more wrapping in the head, but we'll see how this felts down. Can you use your imagination and have that look like a deer face yet? Now deer have really narrow noses, so you want to get that kind of tight, and then they broadens out into the rest of the skull. So I may use the finer needle to get that felting down. See, I need to tighten it up here. Sometimes you can take it and roll it in your hands if it's not felting as fast enough for you. Kind of smooths it out a little bit. Now I'm not happy with the area that those of you who have horses will understand the term the throttle, which is like the throat area. I want that a little bit tighter. So at this point, we're going to start building the body shape. And so a deer is kind of thick through here and through here for its hips. Now with this pattern, you can put your deer body on that to see, are you thick enough? And we see that the neck is thick enough, and the head just needs a little bit more around what would be the skull. But this body, you can see that it needs to be wider. Now, I've made quite a few of these, so I can just go by, looking at it and know what I need to do. But I just showed you the pattern as an example, and the pattern this lady does for you is wonderful. Okay, so these are the colors that we're going to use in making our little Rudolph deer. If you notice, there are different shades of the light color. This is the core wool. This is kind of a flesh. You see the difference between that and a stark white? See how stark white that is? Then that's flesh. Then you've got your core base wool. Got a little bit of black, little bit of camel, a little bit of brown, and just a touch of orange. And all these colors will be incorporated into the deer. But the next step is applying a top coat, and these are going to be top colors to the deer. And it takes very little to do this. So we're going to start with white. And this is just a little puff of white. We take our medium thing again, and we're going to put white everywhere white would appear on this deer. Deer have a little bit of white up their butt, so I'm going to do that to this rest of this piece of white. I don't know if you can see that subtle color change between the white, stark white on the bottom, to the undercoat. Okay, so we've got some white on him. Now where the coat transits from the white to the more brown up here, we're going to apply just a little bit of this camel color. Okay, so here my sound went out on me. So basically I'm taking this color and making it very thin and laying it along the edges of the white that I put on the figurine's belly, and just tack it down. And it's going up the neck and just around the margins of the body. And by now you might be starting to get amazed and might stick with me to the end of the video. Alright. So we've got a layer of the camel color. And now you can see the contrast between the white and the core, right? And I'm still getting help from the cat over here. Okay, so now we're going to take a little bit of this red, very little, and we're going to do, just going to feather it down. Just above the margin. And you can take your needle and train it up. Now we're going to do the bulk of the body color, which is this kind of a milk chocolate brown. And I started by laying it spreading it out and laying it across the shoulders and tacking it down. It's going to go all the way down to the butt. Okay, you see I've got basically a top coat on the brown, then I've got a little bit of red showing and a little bit of camel. And if you look at a deer coat, they look very close to this. But now we're going to concentrate on the head, which is where you're going to really start sculpting shape. So what I've done is I've taken the staple that's long, see, and I've laid it from the shoulders up the neck and over the head, and I'm now tacking it down. And I'm going around the edge of the nose. Can you see that right here? So first we go straight. To delineate the muzzle, okay? And then we're going to fold this back and kind of spread it across the head. And we're just tacking it down right now. To try to shape its little face a little bit better. Now, a deer has a pretty pronounced nose, and it goes into a wider skull area. So simply what you do is you decide where that skull or where the nose is going to end, and you try not to poke your finger like I just did. And you stab downwards to do that. Now remember, we started with this, right? Now we've got this. So for the leg, we've got a pattern here that shows us how to bend the pipe cleaner. Okay? And you bend it to your pattern. Okay. So you go back to your core wool, and you're going to make a circle that fits that circle. And I take about 2 inches of core. And I lay it, pretty thick. And then I start stabbing with the thicker needle. And you kind of ascertain whether you've gotten it, to the margins of that with your core. Okay? Some people would use the multi-needle thing at this point. But you're just creating a little pillow, and they can bend that over, then bend that over, bend that over, I don't know if you can see that, but it's pretty much the right size. That's a thigh. So here we're starting to make the leg, and basically you're going to wrap black on the end. Then I apply Elmer's glue to it and let it harden. And you want to keep it very thin and wind it very tight because deers have kind of bony legs. So when I get done with that, I put a little bit of white on the circle that becomes the thigh of the deer. And then I'm back to putting white above the black once that glue has dried. And you just needle felt that down very carefully. And then you wrap the brown and you needle felt it. And you're going to go up pretty high on what becomes the hip and needle felt it. And roll it in your hand. So here we're positioning the leg on the deer, and you want to bend it so it looks like, the natural bend of a leg. Sometimes I get photographs of the animal up on my computer screen. I do this at my desk so I can mimic the color and the positioning more accurately. But here I am finding the right position and bending the head back. That'll be needle felted down eventually. You put the hip on and you needle felt around it, paying close attention to get down into the crevices. Coat it with the brown, and that's how she looks before you start in on some of the finer details. Well, here I'm taking a little piece of black and I'm rolling in my fingertips until it's tight and tiny. And then we're going to place it on the end of the nose and needle felt it into place. Now, this could be a little bit of a challenge, but after you've done a few, it gets easier. So here we are. I'm going to poke them in the schnoz. Once it's tacked down, we fold it back up the face and then down the face again. So it's you kind of a triangular nose. So now we're going to do a very, very thin little strip of black to give him a mouth shape. And you basically monkey with it until you get it into place, holding that head down, keeping your fingers out of the way. This is when you're more apt to stab yourself. So I lay it into place very carefully, tack it down a little bit, and then you hold the black out to the side and finish that mouth shape. Now onto the eyes. So I go to the flesh-colored, remember the flesh-colored fleece, and I roll it in my fingers so I get a little bit of a ball. And look for the position to put it on the side of the head where the eye would be. And you just kind of eyeball that. And you tack that into place. And by now you'll be used to shaping the little balls that you put down. And you're using the fine needle to go ahead and shape this. To make sure you get the other eye at the right spot in the skull, I stick just a regular pin through the skull, through the center of the white eye ring that you just put down. You see it centered there, and you're going to take another piece of fluff on the other side and tack it down like you did on the first side. This takes some practice, otherwise you get kind of a cross-eyed deer or cross-eyed figurine if you're putting eye things on. And don't be afraid to just pull it off if it's not right. But we got lucky here. We got a pretty good position. And now we take another little strip of black, lay it across horizontally, and tack it down, as you see here. And at this point, I'm always entertained and amazed at how this comes together. And again, I'm using the ultra-fine needle. Look at this. I've got it on both sides. So now we're going to do ears. And I'm going to lay out the chocolate brown merino top wool. And I'll get 2 pieces equal size. And it's real soft and shiny. You feel like you're petting your kitty when you're laying this down. But as you say, I'm going to do 2 that are equal in weight and size, or amount of the chocolate brown. And this is what's neat. You needle felt up the center in a straight line. Okay, you see how I did that? And then you're going to go off the sides like a Christmas tree. Kitty's helping. Oh, kitty's helping. Bad kitty, go away. Yeah, he did that several times. This took me like 3 or 4 days to do for you. So, sorry for the extra long video, but I thought you'd like to see the process. But you see him going off to the side, so it's kind of Christmas tree shaped. And I do that on both sides of what will become the ear, straight down the middle, and then on the side, on both sides. And it should be the size of from my fingertip to the first knuckle. See how I'm measuring it there? Then I pull one side over the middle and then the other side over the middle and tack those down. So you're creating a more easily seen margin on the side of the ear. Then I pulled the fleece back down, and I'm showing you what size it should be according to the pattern. And we're about there on both of these ears. Then we tack down a little bit of white in the center. Actually, I did the flesh tone first, and then went back with white. And you tuck that in. You do the margin by rolling it on its side and going at an angle, squeezing it tight, and this will firm up the size of the ear or the disc or whatever else you might be making. You see the fuzzy wuzzy ears? You position it behind the skull with the loose part of that ear that wasn't felted going down the neck. And then you're going to kind of pinch the bottom together, like I'm doing right there. See, I'm pinching it, and it improves the shape. And then I'll needle felt that to the skull of the deer, letting the loose part flow like hair down his neck. And here I've got both ears on. Now, okay, as you see, I've got his ears on, and now we're going to do the tail. So the tail, again, is about a knuckle, or the first knuckle on my finger, a little bit past that. Using the same technique, but you're doing it a little bit narrower, we create what will become the tail. Now to position it. In this instance, you see it's like, it goes from the end of my finger just to my first knuckle there. We spread out the loose part at the bottom and position it on his little butt, right about where the white meets the brown. And on it goes. Now I'm using the multi-pin thing just to firm him up all over his body. Then you bend the head back and you just needle felt the head down onto the leg. You may use a little bit of fleece to help tack it down. And then you make little dots out of the white and you poke those into the deer in random places. And you do random sizes of the dots too. And this is just the pure white going in. And he's going to go all the way up his back and all over. Everywhere you see brown, he's going to get a dot. So, there you have it. Little deer got his spots, and we managed not to wake him up. Isn't that precious? Thank you for sticking with me through the entire video. This by no means is an original design. I learned this online, and I'll make I'll put a link below for the lady who this is her pattern. But I've adapted it to other animals and made it my own. Changed the process just a little bit. But if you want to learn how to do this, she does much better instructional videos. This one I did today is more of showing you what you could do with just a ball of fluff. So you remember, we started with this. And we ended up with a little sleeping deer. With spots. What a precious face. So you too can do this. If I can do it, anyone can do it, okay? And you just need the space and a couple of feline helpers like I had. I have to warn you, if you make these figurines and you put them on your bookshelves or showcases, if you have animals, the dogs and the cats will be attracted to this and they will tear it apart. So if you have creatures in the house, you need to keep your little figurines and your supplies in a safe spot, especially your needles, because you don't want them ingesting your needles. So, but I'll put a link below on the tutorial that was my very first tutorial, which was this figurine that I watched a couple of years ago. And my favorite source of the wool. It's a company out of Texas. There's one from the Upper East Coast that I use occasionally because they have some colors that the Texas company doesn't have as far as core wool goes. They have colored core wool, whereas the Texas company does not, which can come in handy. You don't have to use so much top, what they call roving, or the top merino. But that is pure wool with a little bit of pipe cleaner in it. And it was fun, wasn't it? Hope you had a good time. I know it was a long video, but some things just take time to show you. Okay, until next time, see ya.